So, the problem with just knowledge in itself is that we are using our logical minds to learn something, to learn a skill, to learn about different things in our world. And the problem with knowledge alone is that you're maybe not integrating it. I especially see this with, say, spiritual knowledge or religious knowledge. I see people that are so scholarly. They're maybe have studied sacred texts, like, say, the Bible, for years and years and years, and they know all the Coptic and the Greek, and they understand the linguistics of it and the different copies, and they're so scholarly. They have a PhD. They're just very knowledgeable. And a lot of people I see, because their knowledge is so high, they're not being. Their being is underdeveloped. So it's like, if you imagine like a chart like this, where you have knowledge going this way and being going this way, and in the middle is wisdom, right? Because you're not just learning something, you're like, how does this apply? I'm especially talking about like in the spiritual realm, like, how does this apply to me, how I'm being, how I'm showing up? If you're being without knowledge, you're having a direct experience. You're having this experience of the oneness, the creation, the creator, like everything, and that's really important. But in some mystery schools, it's like the knowledge comes first, then being, and then being actually becomes first over knowledge, because knowledge can be manipulated, right? Like, people will learn all these things and they're like, I know because I've studied it. And it's like, well, who wrote the books? How much has been manipulated? We don't know. I'm not saying to not have any knowledge. You need a basis of what you're learning. But what I have learned as I'm learning, because I am implementing the being part of it, the knowledge is making more sense. And I think sometimes I'm specifically talking about like the Bible right now, because I grew up in like a Christian household. That's probably what I'm most familiar with, although I'm learning more about like the writings of the Sikhs, because I think they're beautiful, and it goes in line with Kundalini yoga. But what often happens is people are so knowledgeable about the literal interpretation that they're missing. There's like another level, like there's another level beyond the obvious, because the people that wrote, we're like missing a language. There's a language of parable, of poetry, of kind of things hiding in plain sight. And when people are so focused on the knowledge, that's when they start to get really fundamentalist, and they're not being the things that like say Jesus was actually teaching about compassion and turning the other cheek, and people will just hold on to the knowledge of like, I've read the Bible, I've studied it, I know. And there's always been something in me that like something's off key. And now, like, I spend so much time in direct experience with the creator, in Kundalini, we call it the Waheguru, like the awe, the like, wow, everything's so amazing. And when you spend more time in that, then this makes more sense. And it makes more sense universally. And you start to see the threads of commonalities that everybody, once you get to a high enough level of understanding, is actually saying the same thing. Could it be that the Gospels are really just about self-realization and self-transformation? I don't know. Read it from that idea, and you tell me what you see. You tell me if you start to see things different. There's just a few keys that you can pick up on, and you realize there's this whole psychological side that is like, oh, it makes sense. And the Sikhs already knew. They wrote things in song and poetry. So I am just like, oh, like this totally makes sense. These things that have been not making sense to me and not adding up and being off key since I was like 8, literally. And to be like, I knew it. I knew everybody's kind of saying the same thing with different flavors. And that might be triggering for some, but it's really empowering for me, and it's really empowering for a lot of people, because if you look at something from a little higher lens than the really very literal sense of everything, this whole understanding just awakens in you that literally you can see how much sense everything actually makes, and how we really are fighting about silly things, because we're here to have that connection with the infinite, and we're here to balance the knowledge with the being. You can't have both. If you were just supposed to have knowledge, why would you have this like divine spirit that is, guiding you? And if you were just supposed to be spirit, like why would you have a body? Why would you have a brain? Why would you be on this earth? So obviously we're supposed to balance both and get to that part of wisdom that is that's the sweet spot. So let me know if that helps or if it makes sense. And if it doesn't, just move along. Okay? Have a great day.